Welcome back. In today's video, you are going to go on a journey with me where we are going to review a client app. I have a blog post on vibecodingacademy.club where I talk about all the different things that you need to check for when it comes to security. Things on the front end, things on the back end, things in the database, and applying rate limits, and a whole bunch of other things. So you can go and you can read this blog on vibecodingacademy.club. I'll link the blog post down below in the video description. And let me show you the app as well. So let me just bring it into screen. Okay, so this particular app allows people who are looking for jobs to practice their interviews. They put in their job role, they put in their CV, and then they basically start a mock interview where they're actually having an interview with a virtual recruitment. So let's test this. So let's just say we're going for a shop assistant role. I'll put in my name here. Okay, and this is the job description. This is my dummy CV. I'm going to say begin. And now what should happen is I should be able to see. I'm just enabling the mic. Now you can't see the entire screen. Let me see if I can make this smaller. Let's see. All right, there we go.
Abdul. Thanks for coming in today.
Whoops, sorry, I interrupted there. Please go on.
No problem at all. I'm Sarah Jenkins, the owner here. We're really happy to be talking to you about the shop assistant role. Your CV looked great. Could you start by telling me a bit more about what sparked your interest in this specific cafe?
Yeah, look, I regularly come to the cafe and get my coffee, and the coffee's fantastic. And recently I changed roles, and I thought I could be of service here at your cafe, and I applied.
That's lovely to hear. We really try to foster a welcoming environment. In your experience, what do you consider your key strengths for a role like this, especially in a fast-paced setting?
Okay, so the app is working. That's the app, and we are going to execute a security review on that particular app. Now, I'm going to be using my AI agents running on OpenClaw for this. And what I've done is I already have a framework that I work with, and I basically have taken that framework and turned it into a Claude Code skill. And now I want to basically run that skill on that particular code base. Now, let me show you one more thing. What I've done also on the blog post is I have made that IP available for anyone to be able to get the prompt and run the security review that I'm going to run now on their own code base. And I have put that at a special price down to $7 from $97. So if you're interested, you can go to the blog post and you can grab that if you want. Now, this video is all about a live security review, and I've put all the IP into a skill for Claude Code, and now I'm going to run it. So I'm just going to talk to my agent here running on OpenClaw, and I am going to say, let me talk to him now. Okay, so I'm going to talk to the agent now. I want you to pull down the latest source code of the Interview Pro project, and using the security skill, I want you to do a complete security review of that code base and report back your findings. Okay, so I want to make sure it gets the latest source code because I haven't touched this project for a while. And I'm saying to use the security skill that I've just set up. Okay, I've been using the framework for a long time, but I haven't set it up as a skill until now. And I've asked it to do a complete security review of that code base and then report back its findings. So let's kick this off. And we'll need to wait for this to come back, and then we'll take a review of what it's found. Okay, so the security agent has gone ahead and executed the skill that I created for the security review, and it found 8 vulnerabilities. 3 of them are critical. It's saying that there are some secrets inside of the Git library, and they are in this particular file. Okay, and it's saying that it contains the Superbase service role key, which is basically a database access key that allows anybody to go and access any of the tables inside the database. It's also saying there's some stripe keys in there, send grid keys in there, so it's pretty severe exposure there. The Gemini API key is inside the client bundle, basically inside of the JavaScript file, so anybody can grab that if they know how to. So there's obviously some very key issues there. In the high, it's saying that in the versal.json file, which is where this particular app is deployed, there's no security headers, okay? There's no rate limiting, and there's no CORS configuration, no CORS configuration. So without rate limiting, that means we can have denial of service attacks on our APIs and a whole range of issues there. And we need these security headers as well inside of the versal.json file. Some error messages that are exposing some information that may help an attacker get detailed environment information, okay? And then there's a couple of lows, Now, it's given us some immediate action. We need to rotate all the keys because of this, right, issue. And we need to add this file into the git ignore, right, and then move the Gemini and 11 Labs to server-side route, so move it away from the client. Now, this is pretty common when if you build apps with Google AI Studio, which uses, a lot of the apps are Vite, V-I-T-E apps. I have found these issues to be common in apps that are being developed by AI Studio. So just something to be aware of. Now, let's actually go into I'll show you the file. So what it's done is it's generated these two files, right? The actual review, the findings, and then what we need to do to fix them. Okay, so I'm going to now go to my Visual Studio, and let me show you what file is this. This is the review file, so the findings. Let me just make sure you can see it. Okay. Now, I have made a copy of the original and just hidden some of the details because it contains sensitive information. It contains and shows you the keys and things that have been exposed. So it's quite a detailed file. You can see here on the right-hand side how detailed it is. And so here it's saying that there are secrets committed to the Git repository, okay? And basically saying they're in this file, okay? And that's something that's a no-no. There are these secrets exposed, okay? The database key, the Stripe key, and the send grid key used to send out emails. Obviously, the Stripe key is a critical one because that's where the money is, right? And so I've changed and hidden some of these. Obviously, these are not the real details. The real details are in the original file. I've gone and edited the file just so that you can see the kind of output that the skill creates. Now, the Gemini API key is in this. This is the client-side file, okay? So it's bundled up in the JavaScript, and therefore anyone that knows how to look at the JavaScript can actually grab that Gemini API key. Now, this is an app that's live, right? It's live right now on the internet, so this is a real risk for the client. What else? So we've spoken about the Gemini API key. Also, it's saying it's called directly from the client, okay? So if you recall, if you go back to the summary in WhatsApp, the agent said, look, move the Gemini calls and the 11 lab calls to server-side functions, okay, to backend APIs. So now remember, this is something that's been AI vibe coded, right? This is not a developer coding this by hand. This is developed. This app has been developed by, I'm pretty sure they used Google AI Studio, okay? So these are issues identified by my framework that looks for these kinds of things and other things, okay? And remember, so it's not that the developer, who's a human, has done this. It's an AI coder that has made these mistakes, okay? And not a cheap model either, right? It's a model from a significant player in the market, in the industry, okay? Now, this is important because there's no security headers in the calls to the backend, okay? And so we need all these kinds of things here. And it goes into all these details of what's going on, right? And then it provides another file on how to fix all these issues. What do you need to do? So these are, it wants us to rotate all the keys, obviously. The Stripe key, the send grid key, the Gemini API key, and the 11 Labs API key because they've been exposed. And so it gives you all these things that are server-side headers that you need to put in. It also talks about rate limiting, right? How to set that up, how to set up the CORS, cross-scripting issues to protect the app from there. And some error responses were detailed in providing environmental details. So it's got a whole range of things on how to fix all that stuff. And you can go ahead and do it manually, but the security framework fixes all this for us, okay? You can see that I haven't run this manually, right? I have a framework that I've now moved into a Claude Code skill where it's taken all that IP that I've built up from experience in dealing with these apps and these problems and solving these issues. I've put it all into a process that I was using and now moved it into a skill. And I've also therefore also made it available to anyone that's watching this video, right? There's a blog post that talks about it and gives you how to do it yourself. Okay, you can run all these commands, or you can simply grab for $7 the actual framework. Let me click on this and show you what's inside. So you get the prompt to actually go and run it yourself, right? You need to run it on Claude Code or GPT Codex because it needs to be run with a model that is very smart, okay? So you can look at this and understand what is provided, or you can just do it yourself manually as well. That's okay as well. But you can see that I'm just using my AI agents and it's providing me a lot of detail. Now, I can just say, go and fix it, right? So I can just say to my AI agent running on OpenClaw to go and fix it because the fixes are also provided, okay? And you can just say to your agent to go and fix it, make the changes. So let me say and kick this off. Spawn the security agent and implement the fixes from the security review on the Interview Pro project. Okay, so I like to spawn new sub-agents, right? So that I can have another agent monitor the work. Okay, so I'm saying go and implement the fixes from the security review on that project. So I'm going to kick that off. And it'll actually now go and change the source files. It's actually got a lot of work to do from the fixes that we have identified. It's going to now change the architecture of the app so that it's going to introduce some backend functions, and it's going to basically move calls to Gemini and 11 Labs to the backend server. And it's going to also put in security headers in those backend function calls. It's going to implement rate limiting, so apply limits on the number of times those APIs can be called in a particular session by a certain IP address, right? Tracking the user's usage and limiting those types of denial of service attacks. And then it's going to make sure these files are no longer tracked. And then we're going to have to rotate some of those API keys. Gemini API keys, SendGrid API keys, Stripe API keys, the database API keys, all that kind of stuff as well. Okay, so we'll come back and see the outcome of the fix and see all the work it's done. So you can see it's already started. Okay, so it's removing these secrets from the Git repository. It's moving the calls to Gemini and 11 Labs to the backend APIs. It's adding all the security headers, implementing rate limiting. It's adding the calls, right, the cross-scripting protection we need in the configuration, removing detailed error logging that may have exposed detailed environment information that a malicious user could have used to get access to the system. And then it's going to run an NPM, which is just a dependency package manager audit fix to make sure those dependencies, as small little modules that it has used inside the app, are not outdated and don't have any security holes. Okay, it's then putting that into a new branch in GitHub or in its own repository under fixes. And will let me know when those fixes have been done so I can review and then merge. So review means, I may not understand fully all the fixes it's done. I'm not going to look at all the code, although I have a good understanding of what it's supposed to do and what I'm expecting. It's really to go and test the app after the implementation of these big changes. It's changing the architecture in a big way, changing the source code in a big way. And so it's important that it does those changes in a branch so as to not bring down the app running on production right now. And so I will be able to test the app in a separate URL in this separate branch, okay, and to make sure it's all working. Many times when I've run these fixes for other apps, the application doesn't work immediately, and I've got to go and troubleshoot and get the agents to fix some other issues as a result of those changes. And so you've got to have some kind of change control in place so you don't bring your whole production site down while you're implementing these fixes. So they can't just go to the live site, right? And so my agents know that these fixes, these changes or enhancements need to go into a separate branch where I can then get a separate URL and test the app to make sure it's working before we merge these changes into the live main branch. Okay, so let's just go ahead and fix and do its thing. We'll come back and see what it's done. Okay, the security agent has gone ahead and applied the changes. Okay, the security agent has gone ahead and applied all the recommendations made by the security assessment. It's removed the tracking for this file. It's moved the API keys to the server side, no longer in those JavaScript files. It's added security headers, applied rate limiting, sorted out this cross-site scripting issue, safe error handling, okay, and there was no issues with the NPM package manager, right? New files created, and it wants me now to rotate some of those API keys. And it's got all these details here in the security fixes MD file. So let's have a look at this file. It's saying it's local only, so I need to download it into my local means on the VPS. So I need to download that onto my PC so we can read this. So I'm going to take a look at this. And so let's take a look at this. Okay, so this is the fixes that have been applied by the security agent after the assessment and looking at what was the issues and the recommendations from that assessment. And it's pretty straightforward because we already know what it's looking for. So it's removed some of those secrets from the Git tracking file. Okay, and what else has it done? So these are what it's removed. Now it's asking me manual action that I need to do. Basically, I need to rotate all these keys. Okay, what else? It's created server-side functions for accessing Gemini. Okay, great. And you can see it's applied rate limits, for example, 30 requests per minute, right? So that those APIs cannot be abused, okay, by users. Done some stuff for 11 Labs and applied all these different types of server-side backend changes, right? All these things have been done, and these are all the Git commits that it's done for all those changes. So it's done a lot of work. Now we have to go and check the app. So what I'm going to do is get the app and now just run it and see if it works. If it doesn't, we'll have to troubleshoot with the agent. Okay, so let's test the app. So I'm going to say I'm going for this role. This is my name. This is the job description. This is the CV that it's made for this test. Waiting for the recruitment panel to be assigned.
Hi, Abdul. Thank you for coming in today. It's nice to meet you. I'm Elena Rodriguez, the manager here. We're a small, tight-knit cafe, and creating a warm and positive environment is what we're all about. I've reviewed your CV, and your experience looks great. To start, could you describe your key strengths and how they align with the shop assistant role here?
Well, that's a pretty hard question. All right, let me talk to the agent to make sure this app's working. My key strengths are in customer service. I like dealing with people, and my key strength is actually listening to people, because often people are going to work, coming to a cafe to grab a quick coffee and a bite, and they are in a rush. And so listening to them to get their order right on the first go is critical.
That's very important. Getting the order right the first time is crucial for a positive customer experience, especially during busy times. Speaking of busy times, this cafe can get quite busy, as you can imagine. Can you recall a specific time when you faced a particularly fast-paced or challenging situation in a previous role? How did you handle that situation?
Okay, so the app seems to be working fine, and I just want to make sure the report comes out and there's no issues on the back end when it's generating the report. And I also want to make sure that I am testing a version where all the code has been deployed. I could still be testing the version where the code is still not right. So I am going to, so this is okay. Yep, the report's come through. So the app's working, but it doesn't confirm to me that I am testing the right version. So let's see. I'm actually going to open up GitHub and check if there's been a deployment. And yes, so I can see 20 minutes ago, there have been some changes in the repository. All right, that's fine. Now I want to check is where it's actually deployed. Okay. So I'm checking now in the actual environment where it's deployed to make sure a new deployment was kicked off. So let me find the app. So here, this is the GitHub repository where the code sits. You can see there's been changes, right, in the last 20, 30 minutes. So I know now that code has been pushed up. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to check where the code is deployed in production. Okay. And I just want to make sure there has been a deployment. So let me find the app. Now you can see there's no recent deployments to this app, right? So we're not testing the version with the code. You see, these are important things that you need to be aware of. So the deployment, there's been no deployment, and I think I know why. I don't think this particular project is linked to that repository where it automatically deploys. So let me double check that. Yeah, so I was correct, and the app itself on my production environment is not connected to the code repository, so it did not automatically deploy. So it now connected the deployment with the code base, right? What that means is I was most likely getting the agents to deploy this manually rather than automatic deployments. Okay, so I'm going to now just trigger a redeploy. And I'm just going to ask the agent to do that. The project was not connected to the GitHub repository, so I have now connected the project in VERCEL to the remote repository. So I want you to kick off another deployment. All right, so I'll wait for that and then we'll test it again. Okay, so you can see that the agent has redeployed. Okay, and now I need to test. So I will bring up a new browser session with the app. And let's see if it's broken, if it works. And before it, I can see that it, I can see on my Vercel dashboard, which is where I deploy my apps, that a new deployment has occurred. Okay. All right, so let's now test this again. Put my name in, going for the shop assistant role. Job description's there, CV's there. Let's hit, there we go. Right, so now we've got a problem. Okay, so straight away, the app's broken. Now I've got to work with the agent to get this fixed. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I will take a snapshot of this and just send it to my AI agent and say it's broken. You see, it was all working fine until we made changes. So I will click on OK and I will minimize this and I'll just paste this in and just send it, let it work it out. Prior to the security fixes, I did test the app and everything was working fine. So these issues are related to the most recent security fixes. All right, that's important to let it know that I did test the app prior so that it knows that, okay, the issue is related to the most recent changes that it did. So I'm just going to go through and troubleshoot each issue and make sure the app's working again. But at least then the app will be secure. That's important. Okay, so it's identified the issue. Now this is really important for you to see why it was so important for me to tell the agent that I tested everything prior to the security fixes, because this information was key for the agent to realize what had occurred. If you follow what the agent is saying, it's basically digging into the code to identify why it's happening. It's found the issue that this function in this file uses this environment variable API key directly. But this, what do we call this? Environment or Vite doesn't expose environment variables to the client unless they are prefixed with this, okay? Now there's a comment that was put into the code by the previous agent who said API keys are fetched server-side now, right? But that agent did not update this particular function. So then the agent suggested two fixes, okay? But then he said, look, the security fix removed the API key from the client bundle, which is correct, but did not update this, okay? And he fixed it, right? And then you needed to check, is the Gemini API key available in the environment somewhere as an environment variable on the server? And you check that as well. Okay. So now he's also said he's deployed it, right? And I can see a deployment. I'm looking at my different screen, right? That it was 4 minutes ago. So a new version is up and ready for me to test. So what I will do is I will bring back our application. Don't know why it's so big. There we go. And refresh the page. Actually do a Control-Shift-R to get a hard refresh. Shop Assistant, put in my name so it knows how to talk to me, and then begin. And now let's see if we get the same error, or do we move forward and find additional issues? Here we go. I'll mute my mic. Waiting for Sarah Jenkins to initiate the conversation. I've muted, so I won't interrupt her if she speaks. Let's see. Waiting for connection. Remember, all this worked previously. So if there's a problem, then it's a problem with the changing code. Didn't take this long previously. All right, I might just take a screenshot of this to get ready in case I need to let the agent know that it's not working here. What I might do also is check the console for errors. Yes, there are errors. Copy console. And that's what I need to give it. So let me give that to the agent. I can move this away. Now I get to the next screen, which is where the recruitment officer is trying to initiate a connection. However, I can see some console errors. Okay, so now I'll just give it that, let it work away, and come back and see what it's found. And this is how we're going to be troubleshooting this, right? And this is normal after such a big code-based change. Okay, so it's come back and found the issue, something to do with formatting of the session ID. Okay, so it's saying that it should work now. I can see a deployment occurred 2 minutes ago, right? So if I show you the deployment log, it's automatically deploying, right? I'm not deploying this manually because I now have connected the code repository to the code base, to the project on where it's deployed. So you can see 2 minutes ago, the last deployment, and it's green, which means I can test it. Okay, so let me now bring back the app. Now this is a really important lesson. If you're working with client apps, always make sure the app works prior to you making any changes to confirm that you have started to change an app that's working, right? Otherwise, you will not know whether or not if it was working prior to you making the changes, right? You'll have a bigger problem on your hands. I tested the app prior to making any change to make sure it worked. I'll mute my mic here.
Hi, Abdul.
There we go.
Today. I'm Sarah.
Hopefully it's all fixed now.
Cafe and also look after our team culture. I've had a look at your CV and your profile seems quite aligned with what we're looking for.
Check if there's any console errors. No errors. Perfect. Hi, I've been working at cafes all my life, and I love how you have refurbished your cafe, and I can see it has improved your sales because I now see queues of people lining up to buy your coffee. Also, I noticed that you have changed the brand of coffee, which has also made a massive improvement to your sales. I'd just like to join your team and continue servicing the customers you already service. No idea where that came from, but I think that's a good response. Let's see what she says. But it looks like the app's working fine. I can see the transcript is also working down here. She's thinking. Let's see if there's any errors in the console. No, everything looks good. Come on. I want to finish this job. Now, with the help of AI, we've been able to do this security review pretty quickly and remodel the app and the architecture pretty quickly. This is taking a lot longer than I would expect. Let me just... Hello, are you still there?
I'm here. Sorry about that. That's really insightful of you to notice those things. It sounds like you have a real passion for the cafe environment. You mentioned your CV that you're customer-focused and able to work efficiently. How would your previous colleagues describe working with you, especially in a busy, fast-paced setting?
Previous colleagues would say that I'm very customer-focused and always willing to go above and beyond to make sure the customer needs are met. All right, so I think this is working fine.
Providing a
Excellent.
positive customer experience is key for us. Can you describe a specific time when...
All right, that seems to be working fine. I'm having a conversation with the AI. And that's the purpose of this app, is to have a mock interview based on the job description and the candidate's CV. I'm just making sure the report renders, and then we are done. We are done. There we go. The report renders. Only got a 6 out of 10. Didn't answer all the questions, obviously. All right, so now what I'm going to do is do a final check. The application is now working. I want you to execute a final security review for the Interview Pro project. All right, let's just fix up some typos for the Interview Pro. All right, so I want to kick off another security review, and we should basically see all of those issues now resolved. Okay, so a new security agent was spawned, and these are the things that it was to do. Okay, and it's all passed. It's happy. All 8 issues have now been fixed, right? And it's asking me to make sure we rotate the keys, which I'll do with the client, and everything else is fine. Okay, so that was a live walkthrough on how I audit clients' projects in the eyes of a security engineer using AI to look through the code in a fraction of the time it would take somebody to go through that code manually. Okay, and what's interesting, as I said previously, is that this app was created by Google Gemini, or it's actually created in Google AI Studio, and we identified a number of very significant issues from a security perspective. Okay, so you must check all source code generated by AI and use the high-end models like Claude Code or Codex to do those kinds of checks. Okay, now if you want the framework, the prompt, and what to look for, then you can grab that from my blog at vibecodingacademy.club. As I said previously, it is significantly discounted, and it comes to your email immediately as soon as you process your payment. Hope the video was useful, and I look forward to talking with you in the next lesson.